Can anyone tell me if I am live? Because it still says live video is starting. Okay. All right, I think we are live. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started. Hi AO, good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are in the world. My name is Heather Brockman, and I am one of your newest mentors. Quick little gimmick about me. I own a mobile pet grooming company in Houston, Texas. We offer high-end holistic grooming experiences for busy owners who pets are part of their family. So that is a little bit about me. I hope everybody had a happy Easter. I've got a couple questions to answer for everybody, so I'm just going to jump right in. First question is from Kristen Lander. Question they asked: is there a threshold for a percentage of revenue that we take home we should aim to stay within? Business description and background of question. As I scale my coaching company, I'm paying out about 46% of revenue to my 1099 contractors and about 15% commission to partnerships with other businesses. This means I'm retaining as low as 39% of revenue with clients brought in on partnerships before expenses, which right now are fairly low, but doesn't leave much room for me to hire admin until I've significantly increased my profits. Is this just a normal part of the process, or should I be considering changing something as I continue to scale and bring on more contractors and partners? My prices are already at the high end in my industry, so raising prices right now probably isn't a good solution. So I do have a few questions about that. Is there any reason why you are unable to, instead of having them as a 1099, turn them into a W-2? So that way you have a little bit more control and perhaps lower the commission that you're paying them. Another thing I would look at doing is check and see what kind of ROI you're getting on each of your contractors. See if they're really paying for themselves. That's another thing. Because if you've got 5 or 6 that are doing a decent job, maybe you could have 2 or 3 that are doing an amazing job. You're getting more money back from having to pay out less. So if that makes any sense. Yeah, so I hope that answers your question, and I'm happy to help in any other way that I can. Next, we've got Joe. Hey Joe, how are you? Question they asked: what am I allowed and not allowed to do with a 1099 independent contractor as far as providing computers, company phones, etc.? Business description and background. I own a home inspection and home watch company in Naples, Florida. In order to grow, I need to meet more realtors. I am bringing onto my team a telemarketing position. They will be classified as a 1099 team member. Am I allowed to give them a company phone and or laptop, or do they need to use their own since they're a 1099? This new position will allow me to be introduced to several hundred a week. Several hundred realtors a week? Elevator pitch. I work with some people buying a home to inspect it prior to closing to ensure that the home is safe and all systems and components are working properly. I also work with seasonal residents to look after their slice of paradise. Joe, I know that we have talked about this in the past. I'm not a huge proponent of 1099. In my industry, it's illegal, so the only thing that I can go on is my experience. But a 1099 should be providing their own everything. I personally would not provide them with anything, and if you're able to, kind of like what I suggested with Kristen, if there's any way that you could bring them on as a W-2 instead of a 1099, that is going to give you a little more control of the situation, their schedule, the write-offs, etc. So that would be my answer for that. See, I wouldn't really give them anything. They should be providing all that themselves. Next question comes from Alex Wilkins. Question they asked: should I create an employee handbook? Business description and background of question. I was thinking about how I am transitioning into a better leader and manager. Should I create a handbook for my workers so they know things are changing and I am shifting my attitude and mindset towards new goals on how the business should run? Yes, absolutely. A handbook is the foundation of your company. In a perfect world, that would be done before you hire employees, but as we all know, things grow, things change. You're always going to be creating new policies. What you can do is there are some templates online, and you can just easily fill out. You can put what state you're in, they ask you a few questions, and you can create a handbook from there. It'll also ask you certain things that are going to be specific to your business, but 100%, if you don't have a handbook already, I would definitely jump on that. Next question comes from Ricardo Delgado. Question they asked: based on the current economy, any negotiating tips as I go to renegotiate my retail lease for my barbershop? Business description and background of question. I have a barbershop with a 4-year lease with 12 years secured. Would I be able to negotiate that? Also, when I first started, I used my personal name to sign the lease, but now I have an LLC. Can I transfer the lease to my LLC as well? As far as negotiating tips, I don't think you would have a lot of room for negotiating. Generally speaking, landlords look at tenants as a monthly source of income. So if you don't fill that slot, someone else is going to fill it. And generally speaking, they're not going to want to take a discount on that. Now, if your tenant has a lot of empty buildings and they're really hurting to fill those spots, you may have a negotiating aspect there. But generally speaking, I don't know if you would really have a leg to stand on, except for, hey, I've paid all my bills on time. It never hurts to ask. The worst thing that happens is they say no. And then as far as transferring the lease to your LLC, when you do sign paperwork, it should just be as simple as creating the lease under the new entity. So I hope that answers your question. Again, I'm here. You can DM me if you have any other questions regarding that. Okay, next question. Oh, Ricardo again. Question they asked: as a business owner, what can I do to get involved in the local community? Business description: I have a barbershop and I'm interested in getting involved in the community. Where do I start and how can I make it beneficial to both parties? Okay, so this one is kind of near and dear to my heart because I thought about this the other day when I was reading your question. One thing that I noticed is when I was going through the cancer treatment and I had to shave my head, it was one of the most emotional times of my life. If you are able to pass your business cards around at cancer clinics and be a part of someone's journey in that aspect, not only is that going to build a huge amount of trust, that's going to really kind of put your name out there as well. Another thing you can do is go to homeless shelters. Maybe if you go to schools and start some kind of after-school program, getting kids, just teaching them how to learn the trade, things like that. So there are definitely some ways right there to get involved. And then another thing you can do is networking. There's an app called Meetup that you're able to download, and it gives you all kinds of different social events, different networking events. So that's what I use personally, and I try and go to a couple a month. So I hope that helps. And again, if you have any questions, just reach out to me. Okay. Next question, Ricardo again. Question they asked: what are ways to best communicate change in the workplace when I have some team members who always seem to be reluctant and can be disruptive to the culture? Business description and background of question: I have a barbershop and I have one specific team member that backlashes at times on certain things. I'm planning to extend the hours on Saturday in order to gain more business. Do I just tell them and start it or plan it 1 month before? I'm looking for ways to not only handle this situation, but ideas to get my team aligned and on an ongoing basis. Okay, what I have learned, and I've made a lot of mistakes when it comes to leadership and management, but what I have learned is your team does not like to be told what's happening. They do like to be made a part of decisions. It does kind of build camaraderie. What I like to do is save any big changes and present them at the quarterly company meeting. That way we let people know, like, these are the things that we're going to be working on over the next quarter. these are some things that you guys can expect some changes that you can expect to see. If they're really big decisions, I will inform them and let them know well ahead of time, because ultimately, at the end of the day, it is your business and it is your final decision. If it's smaller issues, bring that to the team and, hey, this is what I'm thinking of doing. What are your thoughts on this? What are your thoughts on that? Once you have worked out all the kinks, then what I like to do is say, okay, we are going to start implementing this on X date. That way they have time to do this. For employees that just won't get on board, especially when it's something new, give them time to adjust to it. So, what you can do is like, okay, we're starting this new policy on X date. Employees, it might take a little bit of time for them to get used to it or get accustomed to whatever change you're making. So if you notice that, okay, one employee in particular keeps not following the new protocol, call them in. What's going on? Did I not make myself clear? Is there something you weren't quite understanding? If after multiple attempts to get the situation rectified, if they're still not on board and they won't get on board, at that time, they're no longer fitting your culture. So then it's time to perhaps move on and let them thrive in another environment. Okay, so I hope that answers your question. Let's see. I do believe. Oh, and then I've got one more from Aurelio Elizaris. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Question he asked, what's the best method of informing my clients that I am increasing their cost of service due to inflation? Business description and background of question. I'm a landscape lawn care business. I'm asking this question because I have a client whom I've had for over 3 years and I have never increased how much I charge for my services, but every year he has increased what he charges his tenants. I service several of his properties and his tenants inform me how much he increased their rent yearly, so I figured I should do something similar. Okay, so general rule of thumb, if you increase your prices by 8%, most people are not going to notice. If you're planning on increasing your prices more than that, I like to give my clients a heads up. What I do is I send a mass email blast. And I will set it up so that it goes out a couple times a month. So in case they miss this email, they'll get it on the next go. And I will also let our groomers, for clients that we haven't seen in a while, let them know as well. Hey, for your next appointment, we've got a price change of XYZ. If there's any questions, they can contact the office. It sounds, now are you raising your prices? Because it says I figured I should do something similar. Are you in a spot where you need to raise your prices, or are you just raising your prices because he is? And are you increasing your prices for all of your clients or just for this particular client? I like to do an across the board price increase once, maybe twice a year. But if you are going to do an across the board, again, anything less than 8%, generally your clients won't notice. Anything more than that, if you've got an email list, do an email blast. That's what I like to do. So that's how I would handle that, at least. So that is all of the questions that I had for today. I hope that answered everybody's questions. Thank you for being patient with me. This was my first live stream, so I look forward to answering any other questions. And again, if you guys need to reach out to me, you can always do so on DM. And I will see you guys at the next event. Thanks so much.